Conservatives celebrated the 4th of July a little more when a federal judge issued an injunction against Joe Biden's government agencies and cabinet for collaborating with tech companies to censor online speech. But the Daily Caller reports now the order is even more far-reaching than first reported. Louisiana District Judge Terry A. Doughty's injunction also bars President Joe Biden's administration from collusion with pro-censorship nonprofit organizations, not just social media companies. In 2020, researchers including Stanford Internet Observatory, election officials, and government agencies established the Election Integrity Partnership, or EIP, to identify misinformation in the lead-up to elections, flagging posts for social media platforms to censor. The Virality Project was a group of academic institutions led by Stanford University that advocated for stricter censorship on Twitter. The project helped launch a system that flagged millions of posts per day as misinformation for review, according to emails. According to the Daily Caller, the injunction says the government may not meet or work with Election Integrity Partnership, the Virality Project, and the Stanford Internet Observatory or other groups, quote, for the purpose of urging, encouraging, pressuring, or inducing in any manner removal, deletion, suppression, or reduction of content posted with social media companies containing protected free speech, end quote. The Biden administration appealed the injunction this week. Greg?
Joining us now is the founder of Western Journal and author of the new book, Counterpunch, Floyd Brown. Floyd, welcome to Victory News.
Great to be with you.
Now,
this is a huge victory.
Yeah, let's talk about it. The injunction against Biden and big tech for violating free speech from Louisiana District Judge Terry Doughty was ground-shaking. You founded and run Western Journal. So have you dealt with suppression of speech from Washington or big tech?
Well, yeah, actually, we've been dealing with suppression from big tech, and now we're learning from the government really since 2016. The year Trump was elected, we were in the Facebook news feed 11 billion times, and that led to over 1 billion page views at Western Journal. Once Trump was elected, Mark Zuckerberg completely rewrote all the algorithms at Facebook, plus all of the algorithms at Instagram. YouTube rewrote all of the algorithms, and Twitter rewrote all the algorithms, basically to censor Christian and conservative content. And that really is against the law because of our First Amendment protections. And it's especially against the law when the government, we've learned, is kind of the shadow actor behind it all. Basically, what the government had been doing is colluding with these companies, pressuring these companies, and forcing these companies to censor people. And that's against the First Amendment. And this judge stood up and I think made an excellent, excellent decision.
I agree with you. It's a great first step. Now, in your new book, Counterpunch, An Unlikely Alliance of Americans Fighting Back for Faith and Freedom, isn't based on the typical left versus right political battles, but two classes, wealthy elites versus the middle class. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, really, there's been a change in American politics that have come over the course of my lifetime. And a lot of what you see in Washington is kind of fake debates. It's really interesting. I think, I call it a uniparty. And one of the reasons I call it a uniparty is because they come together in the end, both Republicans and Democrats. A great example of that is Obamacare. Once the Tea Party happened and Republicans recaptured Congress, they passed a repeal of Obamacare 7 times. And they, were always saying, we're going to repeal Obamacare, we're going to repeal Obamacare, until they had the power to repeal it. And that came after 2016 when Donald Trump was president and would have signed it, and we had the Senate and the House, and then all of a sudden they couldn't get the votes out of the Republican caucus to repeal Obamacare. To me, that's an example of a uniparty protecting socialized medicine, and we see this over and over.
Yeah, they love press conferences, but they don't like actually doing anything. Now, breaking news this morning is the House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer of Kentucky is calling on the head of the U.S. Secret Service to give Congress more information about the cocaine found inside the White House in recent days. Multiple officials are saying it's unlikely the person who brought cocaine to the White House will be determined. And here's one of the reasons, and I'll get your response on the other side.
But because this was in a, not an area that, is highly trafficked, but wasn't necessarily covered by cameras all that well, it's an area that a decent amount of people had access to. It just makes that investigation a little bit difficult.
So in the White House, no cameras. Plus, officials say they can't do forensic testing. Floyd, your observations on the cocaine caper.
Yeah, well, the truth is that they probably do know who's responsible for this, but they've probably been told by higher ups that they can't announce it or make any disclosure of it. It's amazing that this story even got out, and how it ended up on this public scanner is really amazing. And it was a picture into the Biden White House. I think there's real problems with corruption inside the White House, and it's probably Hunter Biden's coke, but no telling who's been using drugs in the Biden White House.
Yeah, now I want to take a moment here and share a quote from your book on America's involvement in foreign wars like Ukraine. You said, quote, to convince everyday Americans to support this ambitious agenda, they trumped up the global dangers we face, they overstated the benefits their global sprinkling could achieve, and they camouflaged the actual cost of the programs. So will the decline in military troop numbers and woke ideology, how does this military complex stay in the game?
Yeah, well, one of the questions people always ask me is, why does America lose all of its wars? And the reason it's losing its wars is because it's not about winning wars. It's about generating profits for those who make arms. And so we stay in places like Afghanistan for over 2 decades, and we don't really achieve anything, but we generate a lot of money for the elites that are building those armaments.
Yeah, there's your uniparty right there in the military-industrial complex. Where can we get a copy of your book, Counterpunch, and get more of the analysis of the news?
Yeah, you can get it at Western Journal, and I'll give it to you free, signed, if you subscribe to Western Journal. Plus, it's available anywhere they sell books, Amazon, and my prayer is that it will help bring Christians out for this next important election, which is vital to the future of America.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Floyd Brown, thank you, sir, for being with us today.
Great to be with you.
Mike?